Grace Miller thought she had it all figured out: raise her daughter alone, keep her heart locked away, and never let another man close enough to hurt them again. But when a wealthy stranger's luxury SUV kissed her beat-up sedan in a school parking lot, she had no idea she was about to collide with destiny itself. Marcus Cole could buy anything money could touch, but the one thing his millions couldn't purchase was standing right in front of him: a guarded single mother who would either heal his lonely heart or destroy everything he'd built. What Grace didn't know was that her daughter's deadbeat father was watching from the shadows, and he was about to unleash a custody battle that would force her to choose between protecting Emma and losing the only man who'd ever truly seen her. Some accidents change everything, but this one was about to rewrite 3 lives forever. If you're ready to see how far love will go when everything is on the line, hit that subscribe button and tell me what city you're watching from, because this story of second chances is just getting started. Grace Miller pulled her old sedan into the chaotic pickup line at Riverside Elementary. The dashboard clock showed 3:12 p.m., and her shift at Miller's Grocery had run late again. She pressed her palms against the steering wheel and took a deep breath. Emma would be waiting. Cars crawled forward in the afternoon sun. Grace rolled down her windows, letting in the warm September air. Her uniform shirt stuck to her back, and her feet ached in the cheap sneakers she'd worn for another 10-hour day. But Emma's smile would make it all worth it. A small boy chased a runaway soccer ball between the cars. Grace hit her brakes hard. The jolt threw Emma's purple backpack from the passenger seat to the floor. Then came the bump. Not hard, just a gentle nudge that rocked her car forward a few inches. Grace's heart pounded as she looked in her mirror. Behind her sat a gleaming black SUV, probably worth more than she made in 2 years. "Oh no," she whispered. The driver's door opened, and a tall black man stepped out. He wore a crisp white shirt and dark slacks that looked like they'd never seen a wrinkle. His watch caught the sunlight as he walked toward her window. Grace stayed in her seat, hands shaking slightly. She'd been in one accident before, right after Emma was born. The insurance mess had taken months to sort out. She couldn't afford another one. "Ma'am?" His voice was deep but gentle. "I'm so sorry about that. Are you okay?" Grace finally looked up at him. He had kind eyes and genuine worry on his face, not the anger she'd expected. "I think so," she said quietly. "I'm Marcus Cole." He held out a business card. "I'll take care of everything. The damage, any medical bills, whatever you need." Grace took the card with trembling fingers. The paper was thick and expensive. Marcus Cole, real estate investment, CEO. Her stomach dropped. A CEO, of course. "Really, it's not necessary," she started. "Yes, it is." His tone was firm but not unkind. "I wasn't paying attention. That's on me." A stream of children poured out of the school building. Grace's panic shifted. "Emma," she said, opening her door. "Is Emma your daughter?" Marcus asked, stepping back to give her space. "Yes, and she'll be scared if she sees—" "Mommy!" Emma's voice cut through the noise. 6 years old, with Grace's light brown hair and bright green eyes, she ran toward the car in her yellow sundress. Grace caught her daughter in a hug. "Hey, baby, everything's okay." Emma looked past Grace to Marcus, then at the 2 cars. "Did somebody crash?" Marcus knelt down to Emma's eye level. Grace tensed, but his voice stayed calm and patient. "I bumped your mom's car a little bit," he said. "Like when you accidentally bump into someone at school. Nobody got hurt, and I'm going to fix it." Emma studied his face seriously. "Are you in trouble?" Marcus smiled, and his whole face changed. The business mask fell away, showing something warmer underneath. "Maybe a little," he said, "but your mom is being very nice about it." Grace felt her guard start to lower. Most people talked over Emma or ignored her completely. This man spoke to her daughter like she mattered. "We should probably move out of the pickup line," Grace said. "Of course." Marcus stood up. "Is there a parking lot where we can sort this out?" They moved their cars to the small lot beside the school. Grace got out and really looked at the damage for the first time. Just a small dent in her bumper, barely visible. She'd seen worse on shopping carts. "It's really not that bad," she said. Marcus was taking pictures with his phone. "Doesn't matter. I hit you. I fix it." He looked up from his screen. "Can I get your insurance information, just to do this right?" Grace hesitated. Her insurance was the cheapest she could find, with a huge deductible she couldn't afford. Maybe we could just handle it ourselves? Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Understanding, maybe. Of course. Whatever works better for you. He pulled out his wallet and handed her $300 bills. Grace stared at the money like it might bite her. I can't take that much, she said. It's probably not enough, Marcus replied. Bodywork is expensive. But I don't even know if I want to fix it. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Heat flooded her cheeks. She'd just admitted to a stranger that $300 was more money than she could spend on her car. Marcus folded the bills back into his wallet without judgment. Tell you what, get an estimate, then call me. Whatever it costs, I'll cover it. And if you decide not to fix it, that's your choice too. Emma tugged on Grace's shirt. Mommy, can we go home? I'm hungry. In just a minute, sweetheart. Grace looked back at Marcus. This is really kind of you, but you don't have to. I want to. He handed her another card. This one has my personal number. Text me when you're ready. Grace took the card, noting how his fingers were long and careful. No wedding ring. She pushed that thought away quickly. Thank you, she said. I mean it. Thank you for being so understanding. Marcus looked at Emma again. It was nice to meet you, Emma. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Emma waved shyly as they walked back to their car. As Grace buckled Emma into her booster seat, her daughter said, He seemed nice, Mommy. Yes, he did, Grace admitted. She watched in her rearview mirror as Marcus got into his SUV. For just a moment, she let herself wonder what his life was like. Big house, probably. Nice restaurants. The kind of easy comfort she'd stopped dreaming about years ago. Then Emma started chattering about her day, and Grace pushed thoughts of Marcus Cole firmly out of her mind. That evening, Grace sat at her small kitchen table with bills spread out in front of her. Rent, electricity, groceries, Emma's school supplies. The numbers never seemed to add up right, no matter how many times she ran them. She picked up Marcus's business card and turned it over in her fingers. The cardstock was thick and smooth. Even his business cards were expensive. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rosa, her coworker at the grocery store. Heard you got in an accident. You okay? Grace typed back, just a little fender bender, nothing serious. Guy paying for it? Grace looked at the card again. Yeah, he's being really nice about it. Rich? Grace almost laughed. Rosa could read people like a book, even through text messages. Probably. Cute? Rosa, I'm taking that as a yes. Good for you, girl. About time something good happened. Grace set down her phone and rubbed her temples. She wasn't looking for something good to happen. She was looking to keep her head above water, to give Emma a stable life, to maybe save enough money to take a community college class or two. Men like Marcus Cole lived in a different world. A world where $300 wasn't a month's worth of groceries, where a minor car accident didn't mean choosing between fixing the dent and paying the electric bill. She'd learned that lesson the hard way with Ben, Emma's father. He'd been charming and confident, full of big plans and bigger promises. Right up until the pregnancy test came back positive, and he decided his big plans didn't include a wife and baby. Grace gathered up the bills and tucked them into a kitchen drawer. Tomorrow she'd get an estimate on the car just to see, but she already knew she wouldn't fix it. That money could go toward Emma's winter clothes or the security deposit on a better apartment. She wasn't going to let herself think about Marcus Cole's kind eyes or the way he'd talked to Emma like she was a real person worth listening to. She definitely wasn't going to think about his smile. 2 days later, Grace was scanning groceries when she looked up and saw Marcus standing in her checkout line. Her heart did a little skip that she immediately tried to ignore. He looked different in jeans and a casual button-down shirt, more approachable, but still obviously expensive. Hi, he said when he reached her register. Hi, she began scanning his items, organic everything, fancy coffee, fresh flowers. Did you need something about the accident? Actually, I wanted to see how you were doing. Sometimes adrenaline masks soreness for a few days. Grace paused with a box of pasta in her hands. That's thoughtful of you. Also, Emma left her hair tie in my back seat. He pulled a small purple elastic from his pocket. I thought she might be missing it. Grace stared at the hair tie. It was one of Emma's favorites, covered in tiny butterflies. She was looking for this yesterday. Thank you. She finished scanning his groceries in silence, hyper-aware of his presence. He didn't check his phone or seem impatient like most customers. He just waited, watching her hands move over his items. "That'll be $47.82, she said. He handed her a $50 bill. "Keep the change." "I can't do that," Grace said automatically. "For excellent customer service," Marcus said with that same warm smile. Grace made change anyway and handed him the coins. "Store policy." Marcus chuckled and dropped the money into the charity jar beside her register. "Fair enough." As she handed him his receipt, their fingers brushed for just a second. Grace felt a little jolt of electricity and pulled her hand back quickly. "Grace?" Rosa appeared beside her register. "Your break's in 5 minutes." "Okay, thanks." Grace looked back at Marcus, who was gathering his bags. "I should let you get back to work," he said. "But if you need anything, you have my number." After he left, Rosa leaned over. "That's Fender Bender guy, isn't it?" "Maybe," Grace said, trying to sound casual. "Girl, he came here for you, not groceries. Nobody buys flowers at a grocery store unless they're hoping to see someone." Grace looked toward the automatic doors where Marcus had disappeared. "Don't be ridiculous." "Uh-huh," Rosa's grin was knowing. "When's the last time a man bought flowers at your register?" Grace didn't answer, but Rosa was right. In 3 years of working at the store, she'd never seen a single man buy flowers unless it was Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. And it was neither. That weekend, Grace took Emma to Riverside Park. It was free entertainment, and Emma loved the playground. Grace found a bench in the shade where she could watch her daughter swing and climb. "Mommy, look," Emma called from the top of the jungle gym. "I see you, baby. Be careful." Grace was digging in, her purse for Emma's water bottle, when a shadow fell across her bench. "Mind if I sit?" She looked up to see Marcus holding 2 coffee cups in a small white bag. He was wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt, and his hair was slightly messy like he'd been running. Grace glanced around the busy park. "How did you know we'd be here?" "I didn't." Marcus gestured toward the running trail that wound around the park. "I jogged this route every Saturday morning. Saw you two and thought I'd say hi." He held up the coffee cups. "I may have made a detour to the coffee cart." Grace wanted to say no. Every sensible part of her brain was screaming that this was a bad idea. But Emma had spotted Marcus and was waving enthusiastically from the monkey bars. "I guess," Grace said, scooting over to make room. Marcus sat down and handed her a coffee. "I didn't know how you like it, so I got vanilla latte. And," he opened the white bag, "apple juice and a chocolate chip muffin for Emma, if that's okay." Grace stared at him. "You bought snacks for my daughter?" "Too much?" Marcus looked genuinely worried. "I can put them back." "No, it's—" Grace struggled for words. "It's really sweet. She loves chocolate chip anything." Emma bounded over, breathless and grinning. "Marcus, are you playing at the park too?" "I was running," Marcus said, "but I saw you and your mom and thought I'd come say hello. I brought you something." He held up the apple juice. Emma's eyes went wide. "Really? For me? If your mom says it's okay." Grace nodded, and Emma practically bounced with excitement as Marcus opened the juice box and handed it to her. "What do you say, Em?" Grace prompted. "Thank you." Emma plopped down on the grass in front of their bench and took a long drink. "So," Marcus said to Grace, "how's your car doing?" "Fine. I decided not to fix the dent." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Personal choice or financial choice?" Grace felt heat creep up her neck. "Does it matter?" "Only if I can help." There it was again, that immediate offer of assistance. Grace took a sip of her latte to buy herself time. It was perfect. Not too sweet, not too bitter. Expensive coffee always tasted different than the instant stuff she made at home. "I appreciate the offer," she said carefully, "but we're fine." "Emma," Marcus said, "what's your favorite thing about the park?" Emma launched into an animated description of every piece of playground equipment, including detailed rankings of which swings were best and why the twisty slide was superior to the straight one. Marcus listened like she was giving a scientific presentation. Grace found herself relaxing as she watched them talk. Emma was naturally shy with new people, but she seemed completely comfortable with Marcus, and he was genuinely engaged, asking follow-up questions and laughing at her stories. "Can you push me on the swing?" Emma asked, suddenly. Marcus looked at Grace for permission. She nodded, and Emma grabbed his hand to drag him toward the swings. Grace stayed on the bench, watching Marcus push her daughter gently, listening to Emma's delighted squeals. A dangerous warmth was spreading through her chest. This was what Emma was missing, a kind man who paid attention to her, who made her feel important. But Grace had learned the hard way that men could be charming and wonderful right up until they decided to leave. Marcus jogged back over after a few minutes. She wants to show me how high she can swing by herself. She's very independent, Grace said. Wonder where she gets that from. Marcus sat back down, closer this time. So, grocery store, huh? Do you like it? Grace shrugged. It pays the bills, mostly. What would you do if you could do anything? The question caught her off guard. When was the last time someone had asked her about her dreams? I used to want to be a teacher, she said quietly. Elementary school, maybe kindergarten. I love watching kids learn new things, seeing their faces light up when something clicks. That's beautiful, Marcus said. What stopped you? Grace gestured toward Emma. Life happened. Marcus was quiet for a moment. It's not too late, you know. 4 years of college, while working full-time and raising a 6-year-old? Grace shook her head. That's not realistic. Maybe not 4 years all at once, but one class at a time? Community college? Grace had thought about it. Late at night when she couldn't sleep, she'd look up class schedules online. But even community college cost money she didn't have. Maybe someday, she said, which was her polite way of saying never. Emma ran back over, grass stains on her knees and her hair wild from the wind. Mommy, I'm hungry. Grace checked her phone. It was almost noon. We should probably head home. I've got some leftover mac and cheese. Actually, Marcus said, there's a really good food truck right outside the park. My treat? Emma's face lit up. Can we, Mommy? Please? Grace wanted to say no. She couldn't let Marcus keep buying them things, but Emma was looking at her with such hope. And when was the last time they'd eaten somewhere other than their kitchen? Just this once, Grace said. The food truck served gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches with names like The Big Easy and Truffle Shuffle. Emma chose plain cheese while Grace and Marcus got more adventurous options. They sat at a picnic table under the trees. Emma chattered between bites, telling Marcus about her school and her teacher and her best friend Sophia. Marcus asked thoughtful questions and remembered details from her earlier stories. Grace found herself studying his face when he wasn't looking. He had laugh lines around his eyes and a small scar on his chin. His hands were gentle when he helped Emma wipe mustard off her fingers. This is really good, Grace said, taking another bite of her sandwich. The owner is a client of mine, Marcus said. He wanted to expand to 3 trucks, so I helped him find the right locations. What exactly do you do? Grace asked. Your card just says real estate investment. I buy properties, fix them up, and either sell them or rent them out. Sometimes I help other people find funding for their businesses. Marcus shrugged. I'm good with numbers, and I like helping people build something. It sounded simple when he said it like that. But Grace had seen enough rich people shop at the grocery store to know that simple didn't usually translate to the kind of money that bought custom suits and expensive watches. Sounds interesting, she said diplomatically. Marcus smiled like he could read her thoughts. It's not as glamorous as it probably sounds. Lots of spreadsheets and contractor meetings. Emma finished her sandwich and immediately wanted to go back to the playground. Marcus looked at Grace questioningly. She needs to run off some energy before we head home, Grace explained. They moved back to the bench, Grace and Marcus sitting side by side while Emma played. The afternoon sun was warm on Grace's face, and the coffee had made her feel relaxed and content in a way she couldn't remember feeling in months. This is nice, Marcus said quietly. Yeah, Grace agreed before she could stop herself. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Emma make friends with another little girl on the monkey bars. Grace was acutely aware of Marcus's presence beside her, the way he smelled like expensive cologne mixed with soap, the way his arm almost brushed hers when he reached for his coffee. Grace, Marcus said suddenly, would you maybe like to get dinner sometime? Just the 2 of us? Grace's stomach flipped. I don't really date, she said quickly. Because you don't want to or because it's complicated with Emma? Grace considered lying, but something about Marcus's direct gaze made her want to be honest. Both, she said. It's hard to trust people when you have a kid, and Emma and I are doing fine on our own. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand, but for what it's worth, I think you're both pretty amazing. Heat flooded Grace's cheeks. You don't really know us. I know Emma is smart and funny and polite. I know you work hard to take care of her. I know you're careful about who you let into your life. Marcus paused. And I know I'd like to get to know you both better, if you'd let me. Grace opened her mouth to give him another polite rejection, but Emma came running over, breathless and grinning. Mommy, my new friend Kaylee says there's going to be a puppet show here next Saturday. Can we come, please? Grace looked at her daughter's hopeful face, then at Marcus, who was trying not to look too interested in her answer. We'll see, baby, she said. But as they walked back to their cars a few minutes later, Emma skipping between them and chattering about the puppet show, Grace found herself thinking that maybe seeing wouldn't be such a terrible idea. Maybe. The next Saturday morning, Grace found herself getting Emma ready for the puppet show at the park. She told herself it had nothing to do with Marcus and everything to do with her daughter's excitement. Can I wear my butterfly dress? Emma asked, bouncing on her bed. It's a little fancy for the park, Grace said, but Emma's hopeful face made her reconsider. You know what? It's a special day. Butterfly dress it is. They arrived at the park early. Grace spread their old quilt on the grass near the small stage area where volunteers were setting up. Emma immediately started making friends with other children, her yellow butterfly dress bright in the morning sun. Grace checked her phone. No messages. Maybe Marcus wouldn't come. Maybe he'd realized that a single mother with a complicated life wasn't worth the trouble. Mommy, look! Emma pointed across the park. Marcus was walking toward them, carrying a small cooler and wearing khaki shorts and a navy polo shirt. He looked relaxed and happy, and Grace's heart did that annoying skip again. I brought snacks, he said when he reached their quilt. Hope that's okay. You don't have to keep buying us things, Grace said, but she was smiling. I wanted to. Marcus sat down beside her. Besides, I wasn't sure what the food situation would be like. He opened the cooler to reveal juice boxes, fresh fruit, and fancy crackers with cheese. Emma's eyes went wide. Can I have some grapes? She asked. Of course, Marcus said. These are the green ones. I wasn't sure if you liked the purple kind. I like both kinds, Emma said seriously, but green ones are better for puppet shows. Marcus nodded like this made perfect sense. Good to know. I'll remember that. The puppet show was simple but charming. Emma laughed at all the right places and gasped when the dragon appeared. Grace found herself watching Marcus watch Emma, noting how he smiled at her daughter's reactions. During intermission, Emma ran off to play with her new friends. Grace and Marcus sat in comfortable silence, watching the children chase each other around the stage area. She's really something, Marcus said. She's the best thing I've ever done, Grace replied without thinking. Then she blushed. Sorry, I know that sounds cheesy. It doesn't sound cheesy at all. It sounds like love. Grace looked at him sideways. Do you have kids? No. Marcus's expression grew thoughtful. I always thought I would, someday. But I've been so focused on building my business that someday never seemed to arrive. You're still young, Grace said. There's time. Maybe. Marcus picked at the grass beside their quilt. What about Emma's father? Is he... Not in the picture, Grace said, quickly. His choice. She could see Marcus processing this, probably wondering about the whole story, but he didn't push, which she appreciated. His loss, Marcus said simply. Emma came running back as the second half of the puppet show started. She settled between Grace and Marcus, chattering quietly about the plot and characters. When the dragon made another appearance, she grabbed Marcus's hand without thinking. Grace watched their joined hands and felt something shift in her chest. Emma was trusting Marcus in a way she rarely trusted adults outside of Grace and her teacher. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. After the show ended and they'd packed up the cooler, Marcus turned to Grace. I know you said you don't really date, he said, but would you consider having dinner with me, just to talk, get to know each other better? Emma was chasing a butterfly several yards away, giving them a moment of privacy. Marcus, Grace started. I'm not asking you to leave Emma with a babysitter, he said quickly. I just thought maybe one evening, after she goes to bed, I could bring takeout to your place. Nothing fancy or complicated. Grace considered this. Her apartment was small and definitely not impressive compared to wherever Marcus lived. But the idea of a quiet evening, adult conversation, good food she didn't have to cook. Chinese or Italian, she found herself asking. Marcus's face lit up. Your choice. Chinese. Emma goes to bed at 8 on weeknights. Wednesday work for you? Grace nodded before she could change her mind. Wednesday. Tuesday evening, Grace stood in her tiny bathroom, staring at her reflection. She'd borrowed a curling iron from Rosa and actually put on makeup. Not much, but enough to feel less like a tired grocery store clerk and more like a woman someone might want to have dinner with. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Still on for tomorrow? I can pick up food from that place on 5th Street if you're okay with spicy." Grace typed back, "Sounds perfect. Emma loves hearing about grown-up dinner parties." "Should I bring her some lo mein?" Grace stared at her phone. He was thinking about Emma without being asked. She typed, "She'd love that. Thank you." "See you at 8. Grace set down her phone and looked at herself in the mirror again. When was the last time she'd been nervous about a man coming over? Not since before Emma was born, certainly. She spent Wednesday evening cleaning her already clean apartment and changing her outfit 3 times. Emma helped by rearranging her toys and announcing that she wanted to stay up to meet their dinner guest. "Nice try, kiddo," Grace said. "You have school tomorrow." At exactly 8 o'clock, there was a soft knock at her door. Grace opened it to find Marcus holding 2 large bags of food and looking slightly nervous himself. "Hi," he said. "Hi." Grace stepped back to let him in. Marcus looked around her small living room, taking in the second-hand furniture and Emma's artwork on the refrigerator. Grace held her breath, waiting for some sign of judgment. "This is really cozy," he said, and he sounded like he meant it. "I love what you've done with the place." "It's not much," Grace said automatically. "It's warm. It feels like home." Marcus set the food bags on her small dining table. "My place is probably 3 times the size and half as welcoming." Emma appeared in the hallway in her pajamas, hair still damp from her bath. "I thought you were asleep," Grace said. "I wanted to say hi to Marcus," Emma said, patting over in her bare feet. Marcus knelt down to her level. "Hey there, Butterfly. I brought you some noodles for tomorrow's lunch, if that's okay with your mom." Emma looked at Grace hopefully. Grace nodded, and Emma threw her arms around Marcus's neck in an impromptu hug. "Thank you," she said. "You're the nicest grown-up I know besides Mommy." Over Emma's shoulder, Marcus met Grace's eyes. The look that passed between them was soft and complicated and made Grace's chest feel tight. After Grace tucked Emma into bed, she returned to find Marcus had unpacked the food and found plates in her kitchen. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I wanted to be helpful." Marcus pulled out her chair. "Besides, you've been working all day." They filled their plates with orange chicken, fried rice, and vegetables. Grace couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten Chinese food that didn't come from the frozen section. "This is really good," she said. "The owner is another client. He makes everything fresh daily." Marcus paused with his chopsticks halfway to his mouth. "Sorry, I just realized I keep mentioning my clients. I'm not trying to show off." "I don't think you're showing off," Grace said. "I think you're proud of helping people build their dreams. That's nice." Marcus smiled. "What about you? What's your dream? Besides teaching, I mean." Grace chewed thoughtfully. "I guess I want Emma to have choices. I want her to go to college if she wants to, or travel, or become an artist. I want her to never have to choose between paying the electric bill and buying groceries." "What about you, though? What do you want for Grace?" The question caught her off guard. She'd spent so long thinking about Emma's future that she'd almost forgotten she was allowed to have wants of her own. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I used to dream about teaching, but I also used to think I'd be married by now, living in a house with a yard, maybe having more kids." She shrugged. "Life doesn't always go according to plan." "No," Marcus agreed quietly. "It doesn't. But that doesn't mean you stop planning altogether." They talked about books, movies, places they'd like to travel. Grace was surprised to learn that Marcus had grown up in a small apartment, not unlike hers, that his mother had worked 2 jobs to support him and his sister. "When did you know you wanted to get into real estate?" Grace asked. "When I was 12, Marcus said. "Our landlord raised our rent and my mom couldn't afford it. We had to move to an even smaller place in a worse neighborhood. I decided then that I never wanted to be at someone else's mercy like that." Grace nodded. She understood that feeling completely. "What about Emma's father?" Marcus asked gently. "If you don't mind me asking." Grace set down her fork. She'd known this question would come eventually. "His name is Ben. We were together for 2 years. He was charming and fun, always talking about the big things he was going to do. When I got pregnant, he said he wasn't ready to be a father. He wanted me to. She paused. Well, I couldn't do what he wanted, so he left. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Does he see Emma at all? Occasionally, usually when he's between jobs or girlfriends and feeling guilty. Grace's voice turned bitter. He shows up, takes her for ice cream, makes promises about being around more, then disappears for months. That must be hard on both of you. It is. Emma keeps hoping he'll stick around this time. I keep trying to manage her expectations without crushing her spirit. Grace looked down at her hands. Sometimes I wonder if I should just cut him out completely. But she loves him, and he is her father. You're doing the right thing, Marcus said. Emma will understand someday that you always put her first. Grace felt tears prick her eyes. I hope so. Marcus reached across the table and covered her hand with his. She's lucky to have you. His hand was warm and steady. Grace let herself enjoy the contact for a moment before gently pulling away. What about you? She asked, changing the subject. Ever been married? Engaged once. Her name was Diane. She was beautiful, smart, from the right family. Marcus's smile was rueful. She loved the idea of being a wealthy man's wife, but she wasn't particularly interested in the actual man. What happened? I realized she saw me as a lifestyle, not a person. When I tried to talk to her about wanting kids or taking time off to travel, or anything beyond what parties we'd attend and what cars we'd drive, her eyes would just glaze over. Marcus shook his head. I called off the wedding 3 months before the date. That must have been difficult. It was, but not as difficult as marrying someone who didn't actually know me. Marcus met her eyes. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who only loves what I can buy them. Grace felt a chill. Is that what Marcus thought about her? That she was interested in his money? Marcus, she said carefully, I hope you know I'm not. I know, he said quickly. That's one of the things I like about you. You keep trying to pay for things yourself. You wouldn't even let me fix your car. Relief flooded through her. Good, because I need you to understand, I don't need anyone to take care of me. Emma and I are doing fine. I can see that, Marcus said. But maybe sometimes it's okay to let people help. Not because you need it, but because they want to. Grace considered this as they finished dinner. Marcus helped her clear the table and insisted on doing the dishes while she put away leftovers. You really don't have to, she said, watching him at her sink. I want to. Besides, my mom raised me right. Tell me about her. Evelyn Cole, retired elementary school teacher, which I think you'd appreciate. She's tough as nails, but has the biggest heart you've ever seen. Marcus smiled as he rinsed a plate. She worked 2 jobs to put me through college, never complained once. She's the strongest person I know. She sounds wonderful. She is, a little protective maybe. She worries about people trying to take advantage of me now that I have money. Grace felt another chill. Does she know about me? I mentioned I'd met someone. She wants to meet you, actually. The idea of meeting Marcus's mother terrified Grace. What would a retired teacher think of a grocery store cashier with a kid and no college education? Maybe someday, Grace said noncommittally. Marcus finished the dishes and dried his hands on her kitchen towel. They stood facing each other in her small kitchen, suddenly aware of how quiet the apartment was with Emma asleep. I should probably go, Marcus said. You have work tomorrow. Right? Work. Grace walked him to the door, hyper-aware of how small her apartment felt with him in it. At the door, Marcus turned. I had a really good time tonight. Me too. Would you maybe want to do this again? I could cook next time. You cook? Marcus laughed. I make a mean grilled cheese, and I'm pretty good with pasta. Grace found herself smiling. That sounds nice. Saturday? I could come over after Emma goes to bed again. Actually, Grace said, surprising herself, what if you came earlier? We could all have dinner together. Marcus's face lit up. Are you sure? Emma likes you, and Grace took a deep breath. I like spending time with you. Both of us do. I'd love that. Marcus leaned down and kissed her cheek softly. It was gentle and brief, but Grace felt it all the way to her toes. Good night, Grace. Good night. After he left, Grace locked the door and leaned against it. Her cheek still tingled where he'd kissed it. She touched the spot with her fingertips and smiled. Maybe Rosa was right. Maybe it was time for something good to happen. Friday afternoon, Grace was restocking the cereal aisle when her phone rang, Emma's school number. "Ms. Miller, this is Ms. Patel, Emma's teacher. Emma's fine," the teacher said quickly, "but she's had a little accident at recess." "Nothing. Serious? Just a scraped knee? But she's asking for you." Grace's heart rate spiked. "I'll be right there." She found her manager and explained the situation, then drove to the school faster than she should have. Emma was sitting in the nurse's office with a bandage on her knee and tears on her cheeks. "Mommy," Emma threw herself into Grace's arms. "What happened, baby?" "I fell off the monkey bars. It hurt really bad, but it's okay now. Mrs. Chen put medicine on it." Grace hugged her daughter tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "You're okay. That's all that matters." As they walked to the car, Emma said, "Can we call Marcus? I want to tell him about my brave bandage." Grace hesitated. Emma was fine, and Marcus was probably busy with work, but Emma was looking at her with hopeful eyes, and before Grace could overthink it, she was dialing his number. "Grace, is everything okay?" Marcus answered on the first ring, concern clear in his voice. "Everyone's fine. Emma just wanted to tell you about her adventure at school." "Put her on." Grace handed Emma the phone and listened as her daughter recounted the entire incident in dramatic detail, including descriptions of her very brave behavior and her very cool bandage. "Marcus wants to talk to you," Emma said, handing back the phone. "How is she really?" Marcus asked quietly. "She's fine. Scraped knee, bruised pride, nothing major." "Are you okay? You sound shaky." Grace realized her hands were still trembling slightly. "Just the usual mom panic. You know how it is when the school calls." "Actually, I don't, but I can imagine." Marcus paused. "Listen, I know we planned dinner for tomorrow, but would you like me to bring lunch over today instead? I could grab some soup and sandwiches." Grace looked at Emma, who was chattering excitedly about telling her friends about her bandage on Monday. "That would be really nice," she said. An hour later, Marcus arrived with a bag from a local deli and a small bouquet of flowers. "For the patient," he said, handing the flowers to Emma. Emma's face lit up. "These are so pretty. Mommy, can we put them in water?" While Grace arranged the flowers in a mason jar, Marcus unpacked lunch: chicken noodle soup, grilled cheese sandwiches, and chocolate chip cookies. "Comfort food," he explained. "My mom's prescribed cure for all childhood injuries." They ate lunch at Grace's small table, Emma regaling Marcus with additional details about her playground mishap. Grace watched Marcus listen to every word, asking questions and making appropriately sympathetic faces. "You're really good with her," Grace said after Emma had gone to play in her room. "She's easy to be good with. She's smart and funny and—" Marcus shrugged. "She makes me remember what it was like to think getting a Band-Aid was an adventure." "Ben never really got that about her," Grace said without thinking. Then she froze, realizing she'd brought up her ex. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "His loss," he said again, but this time there was something harder in his voice. "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Of course." Grace took a breath. "Why are you interested in me? I mean, you could probably date anyone. Someone with a career, someone without complications." Marcus set down his coffee cup and looked at her seriously. "Do you want the honest answer?" Grace nodded. "Because when I'm with you and Emma, I remember who I wanted to be before I got caught up in trying to prove I was successful. You make me feel like myself again." Marcus paused. "And because when you smile at Emma, or when you're talking about something you care about, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." Grace felt heat flood her cheeks. "Marcus, I know it's complicated," he said quickly. "I know you have good reasons to be careful. I'm not asking you to rush into anything. I just want you to know that I'm not going anywhere." Before Grace could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway. "Mommy, can Marcus see my room? I want to show him my butterfly collection." Grace looked at Marcus, who was waiting for her permission. "Okay," she said, "but just for a few minutes. You need to rest that knee." Grace followed them down the short hallway to Emma's small bedroom. Marcus admired the butterfly stickers on the walls and the books arranged on her shelf. He asked about her favorite stuffed animals and listened as Emma explained her elaborate bedtime routine. "This is really nice, Emma," he said. "You've got everything organized perfectly." "Mommy says I'm good at taking care of my things." "Your mom is right." Grace leaned against the doorframe, watching Marcus kneel beside Emma's bed as she showed him a picture book about butterflies. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, highlighting the genuine interest on his face. This was what Emma was missing. This was what Grace had convinced herself they didn't need. But maybe Rosa was right about something else too. Maybe sometimes good things did happen to people like them. "All right, Em," Grace said finally. "Time to rest that knee." They said goodbye to Marcus at the front door. Emma hugged him and made him promise to come back tomorrow for their dinner. "I'll be here," he promised. After Emma was settled on the couch with a movie and her leg elevated, Grace's phone buzzed with a text. "Thanks for letting me come over today. Emma's lucky to have such a good mom." Grace typed back, "Thanks for lunch and the flowers. Emma hasn't stopped talking about them." "What about Emma's mom? What does she think?" Grace stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed, "Emma's mom thinks you're pretty wonderful too." She hit send before she could change her mind. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. "That's the best thing I've heard all week." Grace set down her phone and looked at the flowers on her kitchen table. For the first time in years, she was letting herself hope, and it felt terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Saturday dinner was everything Grace had hoped it would be. Marcus arrived at 5 with groceries and a plan to make homemade pizza with Emma's help. "Can I put the cheese on?" Emma asked, standing on a chair beside the kitchen counter. "Absolutely," Marcus said. "You're the cheese expert." Grace watched from the doorway as they worked together, Marcus patiently guiding Emma's small hands as she spread mozzarella across the pizza dough. Flour dusted both their faces, and Emma was giggling at Marcus's silly voices for the different toppings. "The pepperoni says, 'Don't forget about me,'" Marcus said in a high-pitched voice, making Emma dissolve into laughter. "Pepperoni doesn't talk," Emma said between giggles. "It does in my kitchen," Marcus replied seriously. This was what Grace had dreamed about when she was younger. Family dinners, laughter in the kitchen, a man who treated her daughter like she was precious. She'd almost forgotten what it felt like to not do everything alone. Over dinner, Emma chattered about school and her friends. Marcus asked thoughtful questions and remembered details from previous conversations. When Emma spilled sauce on her shirt, he helped her clean it up without making her feel embarrassed. After dinner, they watched a movie on Grace's small couch. Emma fell asleep between them halfway through, her head on Marcus's shoulder. Grace found herself studying his profile in the blue light from the TV, noting how gentle his expression was as he looked down at her sleeping daughter. "I should put her to bed," Grace whispered. Marcus carefully shifted so Grace could lift Emma without waking her. As Grace carried her daughter to her bedroom, she heard Marcus quietly cleaning up the living room. When she came back, he was folding the throw blanket Emma had been using. "You don't have to clean up," Grace said. "I want to help." Marcus set the blanket on the back of the couch. "Besides, my mom would have my head if I left a mess." They stood facing each other in the dim living room. The TV was off now, and the only light came from the kitchen. Grace was suddenly very aware that they were alone, that Emma was asleep, that Marcus was looking at her like she was something precious. "Grace," he said softly, taking a step closer. Before she could overthink it, Grace closed the distance between them. Marcus cupped her face in his hands and kissed her, soft and sweet at first, then deeper when she responded. It had been so long since someone had kissed her like this, like she was worth savoring. Marcus's hands were gentle but sure, and Grace felt herself melting against him. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "That was," Grace started. "Amazing," Marcus finished. They kissed again, and Grace felt years of careful walls starting to crumble. This was dangerous territory. This was exactly what she'd promised herself she wouldn't do. But Marcus's hands in her hair and the way he whispered her name against her lips made it hard to remember why she was supposed to be careful. "I should probably go," Marcus said eventually, though he made no move to leave. "Probably," Grace agreed, though she didn't step back either. They stood there for another moment, foreheads touching, before Marcus finally pulled away. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said. Grace walked him to the door, hyper-aware of how small her apartment felt, how the air seemed charged with everything they weren't saying. "Good night," Marcus said, kissing her cheek softly. After he left, Grace touched her lips and smiled. For the first time in years, she was falling for someone, and it felt wonderful and terrifying at the same time. 2 weeks later, Grace was beginning to let herself believe that maybe this could work. Marcus had become a regular part of their routine. He joined them for dinner twice a week, took Emma to the park on Saturday mornings, and even helped with her homework when Grace was working late shifts. Emma adored him. She saved funny stories from school to tell him, asked his opinion on everything from playground politics to her choice of books, and had started calling him my Marcus when talking to her friends. Grace tried not to read too much into it, but her heart warmed every time she heard it. It was a Tuesday evening, and Grace was folding laundry while Emma did puzzles at the kitchen table. Her phone rang with an unknown number. "Hello? Grace? It's Ben." Grace's blood went cold. Emma's father hadn't called in 3 months. "What do you want, Ben?" "That's a nice greeting for the father of your child." Grace walked into her bedroom and closed the door. "Emma's busy with homework. What do you need?" "I want to see my daughter. I'm in town for a few weeks, and I think it's time Emma and I spend some real time together." Grace's stomach clenched. Define real time. "I want to take her for a weekend, maybe longer. She's old enough now to handle staying with me." "Absolutely not. Grace, she's my daughter too. You can't keep her from me." "I'm not keeping her from you. You're welcome to see her like always. But she's not staying overnight with you." Ben's voice turned hard. "We'll see about that. I've been talking to a lawyer." The line went dead. Grace stared at her phone, hands shaking. She'd always known this day might come. Ben was unpredictable, showing up when it suited him, disappearing when responsibility got too real. But he'd never threatened legal action before. Grace sank onto her bed, trying to control her breathing. A custody battle would be expensive. She'd have to hire a lawyer, miss work for court dates, prove that Emma was better off with her. And what about Marcus? How would dating a wealthy man look to a judge? Would they think she was gold digging, that she was unstable, jumping from relationship to relationship? Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "How was your day? Want me to pick up dinner?" Grace stared at the message for a long moment. Then she turned off her phone. For the next 3 days, Grace avoided Marcus's calls and texts. She told herself she needed time to think, to figure out what Ben's threat meant for her and Emma. But really, she was scared. Thursday evening, there was a knock at her door. Grace looked through the peephole and saw Marcus standing in the hallway, holding a bag of Chinese food. "I know you're in there," he called softly. "I can hear Emma's music." Grace reluctantly opened the door. "You've been avoiding me," Marcus said without preamble. "I've been busy." "For 3 days straight?" Marcus stepped past her into the apartment. "What's going on, Grace?" Emma appeared from her bedroom, face lighting up when she saw Marcus. "Marcus, Mommy said you were busy, but you're here." Grace's heart clenched. She'd been protecting Emma from her own panic, but she hadn't considered how her daughter would feel about Marcus's sudden absence. "I brought dinner," Marcus said to Emma, "your favorite lo mein." While Emma set the table, Marcus followed Grace into the kitchen. "Talk to me," he said quietly. Grace kept her back to him, busying herself with getting plates from the cabinet. "It's complicated." "Try me." Grace turned around, and Marcus must have seen something in her face because his expression immediately softened. "Hey," he said, reaching for her hands. "What happened?" "Ben called. He wants Emma for a weekend. Maybe longer. He mentioned lawyers." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "What did you tell him?" "No, obviously. But he's her father, Marcus. If he really wants to push this..." Grace's voice cracked. "I can't afford a custody battle. I can't afford a lawyer. And if a judge thinks I'm unstable because I'm dating someone I've only known for a month..." "Grace, stop." Marcus's voice was firm. "First of all, you're not unstable. You're an amazing mother. Second, Ben hasn't been around for Emma's daily life. Any court would see that." "But what if they don't? What if they think Emma should spend time with her father? What if they think I'm preventing that?" Marcus pulled her into his arms, and Grace let herself lean against his chest for just a moment. "We'll figure this out," he said into her hair. "We?" Grace pulled back. "Marcus, this isn't your problem. Emma is part of your life. You're part of mine. That makes it my problem, too." The words should have been comforting, but they made Grace's panic worse. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of, getting so comfortable with Marcus that she started depending on him, started thinking of them as a unit instead of remembering that she was on her own. "I need to think," she said, stepping out of his embrace. "Grace, please. I just need some space to figure this out." Marcus's face fell, but he nodded. "Okay, but I'm not going anywhere, all right? When you're ready to talk, I'm here." After dinner, Emma hugged Marcus goodbye with her usual enthusiasm. Grace watched from the doorway as he knelt down to her level. "I might not see you for a few days, Butterfly," he said gently. "Your mom has some grown-up stuff to figure out, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you, okay?" Emma nodded seriously. "Are you and Mommy fighting?" "No, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups need time to think about important things, but you don't need to worry about it." Grace's chest ached as she watched Emma process this. Her daughter was too young to understand adult complications, but old enough to sense when something was wrong. That night, after Emma was asleep, Grace sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea and tried to think clearly. Ben's threat was real. He'd never followed through on anything before, but he'd also never been this specific about lawyers and custody. And Marcus? Marcus was wonderful, too wonderful, the kind of wonderful that made her forget to be careful, forget that good things usually came with a price. Her phone buzzed with a text. "I know you're scared, but we can figure this out together. I'm not going anywhere." Grace read the message 3 times, then turned off her phone without responding. Friday morning brought another complication. Grace was at work when her manager, Dave, called her into his office. "Grace, we need to talk." Grace's stomach dropped. "Is everything okay?" "I got a call yesterday from someone claiming to be Emma's father. He was asking about your schedule, what time you get off work, whether you've been reliable lately." Grace felt the blood drain from her face. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. It's none of his business, but Grace, if you're dealing with some kind of custody situation, you need to let me know. I can't have people calling here asking questions about my employees." "I understand. I'm sorry, Dave. It won't happen again." "Are you okay? Do you need some time off?" Grace shook her head quickly. She couldn't afford time off, not now. "I'm fine. Just some ex-drama. Nothing I can't handle." But as she went back to her register, Grace realized Ben was escalating. Calling her work was a new low, even for him. Her phone buzzed during her lunch break, a text from an unknown number. "Saw the pictures on social media. Nice upgrade from the grocery store clerk. Hope he knows what he's getting into." Grace's hands shook as she realized Ben had somehow found out about Marcus, but she didn't have social media accounts and she'd been careful not to post anything. Then she remembered. Rosa had taken a picture of Grace, Marcus, and Emma at the park last weekend. She'd posted it on Facebook with the caption, "Grace finally found a good one." Grace felt sick. If Ben had seen that photo, he might use it against her in court. A single mother dating a wealthy man. It wouldn't look good. She called Rosa immediately. "Hey girl, what's up?" "Rosa, that picture you posted of me and Marcus and Emma, can you take it down?" "Why? It's a cute photo. You all look happy." "Ben saw it. He's threatening a custody fight and I don't want him to have any ammunition." Rosa's voice turned serious. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'll delete it right now." "Thanks." "And Rosa, don't post anything about Marcus and me anymore, okay? Just until this blows over." After work, Grace picked up Emma from her after-school program and tried to act normal, but Emma was perceptive. "Mommy, are you sad?" she asked as they walked to the car. "Just tired, baby." "Is it because Marcus didn't come to dinner yesterday?" Grace's heart clenched. "No, sweetheart. Marcus is just busy with work." "But he's coming to my school play next week, right? I told Ms. Patel he was coming." Grace had forgotten about the play. Emma had been practicing her lines for weeks, talking nonstop about how excited she was for Grace to see her perform. "We'll see, Em." Emma's face fell. But he promised. Grace realized she was hurting her daughter by pulling away from Marcus, but she was also terrified of what would happen if she didn't protect them both. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Grace's phone rang. Marcus again. This time she answered. "Hi," she said quietly. "Thank you for picking up." Marcus sounded relieved. "How are you holding up?" "Not great. Ben's calling my work now, asking questions about my schedule. And he saw a photo of us together. He's making this into something bigger than it needs to be." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Grace, I think you should talk to a lawyer. I can't afford. I know someone. Family law. She's good and she owes me a favor. Just a consultation to know where you stand. Grace felt tears prick her eyes. Marcus, I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm offering to help someone I care about. That's the problem, Grace said softly. I've been taking care of myself and Emma for 6 years. I can't start depending on someone else now. Why not? The question was so simple, but Grace couldn't answer it. Because people leave. Because men who seem too good to be true usually are. Because she couldn't risk Emma getting more attached if Marcus decided this was too complicated. I just can't, she whispered. Marcus sighed. Okay, but Grace, I meant what I said. I'm not going anywhere. When you're ready to stop pushing me away, I'll be here. After they hung up, Grace sat in her dark living room and tried to remember why she'd been so determined to stay single. But all she could think about was Marcus's hands in Emma's hair as he helped her with a puzzle, the way he'd kissed Grace's forehead when she was worried about bills, the sound of his laughter mixing with Emma's in their small kitchen. She was falling in love with him. Maybe had already fallen, and that terrified her more than anything Ben could threaten. Saturday morning, Grace woke up to Emma standing beside her bed with tears on her cheeks. What's wrong, baby? I had a bad dream. Daddy came and took me away, and you couldn't find me. Grace pulled Emma into bed with her, heartbreaking. That's not going to happen, sweetheart. I promise. But what if Daddy gets mad again? What if he says I have to live with him? Grace realized Emma had overheard more of her phone conversation with Ben than she'd thought. Em, look at me. Grace turned her daughter to face her. You are my little girl, and I will never let anyone take you away from me. Do you understand? Emma nodded, but Grace could see the worry in her eyes. They made pancakes together, but Emma was quieter than usual. She kept asking questions about her father, about whether he was really coming back, about why he sometimes disappeared. Grace tried to answer honestly without scaring her daughter more, but the truth was, Grace didn't know what Ben was planning. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. Grace looked through the peephole and saw Ben standing in the hallway. Her blood went cold. He wasn't supposed to know where they lived. She'd moved twice since Emma was born, always careful not to give him her address. Emma, go to your room and close the door, Grace said quietly. Is it Daddy? Emma's voice was small and scared. Just go to your room, baby. I'll handle this. Grace waited until she heard Emma's door close, then opened the front door with the chain still attached. What do you want, Ben? I want to see my daughter. Ben looked older than Grace remembered, his brown hair thinner, his face harder. Are you going to let me in, or are we going to have this conversation in the hallway? We can talk in the hallway, Ben's jaw tightened. Fine. I want Emma for the weekend. I'm staying at the Marriott downtown, and I think it's time she got to know her father. She knows you, Ben. You see her when you want to, then disappear for months. That's not changing. It is changing. I'm changing. I have a job now, a stable one. I'm ready to be a real father. Grace had heard this speech before. What's the job? Sales. I'm good at it, making real money for the first time in years. And how long is this job going to last? Ben's face flushed with anger. You don't get to judge me, Grace. I'm her father. You're her father when it's convenient for you. That's about to change. I've been talking to a lawyer like I told you. And I've been doing some research on you too. Ben's smile turned nasty. Dating a rich guy now? That's convenient. Wonder what a judge would think about you using your daughter to land a wealthy man. Grace's hands clenched into fists. Get away from my door. I'll be back tomorrow with official papers, Ben said. And Grace, your boyfriend might want to think about whether a custody battle is worth the hassle. Rich guys don't usually stick around for other people's drama. Grace slammed the door and immediately turned both locks. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely manage the chain. From her bedroom came the sound of Emma crying. Grace found her daughter huddled on her bed, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. I heard Daddy yelling, Emma sobbed. Is he mad at me? No, baby, he's not mad at you. He's mad at me. Grace gathered Emma into her arms and held her tight. Her daughter was shaking, and Grace realized this situation was already affecting Emma more than she'd thought. Mommy, Emma whispered, I don't want to go with Daddy. I want to stay here with you. You are staying here with me, Grace said firmly. I promise. But as she rocked her crying daughter, Grace wondered how she was going to keep that promise, and whether she was being fair to Marcus by dragging him into this mess. That night, after Emma finally fell asleep in Grace's bed, Grace sat at her kitchen table and stared at Marcus's business card. She could call him. He'd said he knew a lawyer. He'd offered to help. But what Ben had said was true. Rich men didn't usually stick around for other people's drama. Why would Marcus want to get involved in an ugly custody battle with a woman he'd only known for a month? Grace picked up the card, then put it down again. She was on her own. She'd always been on her own. It was time to remember that. Sunday afternoon, Grace was doing laundry when her neighbor Mr. Darnell knocked on her door. Grace, there's a man downstairs asking about you and Emma. Says he's the little girl's father. I told him I couldn't let him into the building without your permission. Grace's stomach dropped. Thank you, Mr. Darnell. I don't want him up here. Figured as much. He didn't seem too happy when I told him to leave. After Mr. Darnell left, Grace double-checked all her locks and called Emma's school to make sure Ben wasn't on the approved pickup list. Her phone rang an hour later. Marcus. Grace, are you okay? I just got a weird call from some guy claiming to be Emma's father. He was asking questions about my relationship with you, whether I knew what I was getting into. Grace closed her eyes. I'm sorry. Ben's escalating. I didn't think he'd contact you directly. What did you tell him about me? Nothing. He found out from a photo online. Grace paused. Marcus, I think you should probably stay away for a while, until this gets sorted out. Absolutely not. He's going to try to use our relationship against me in court. He's already threatening. Grace, stop! Marcus's voice was firm. I'm not going anywhere. If this guy wants to play games, we'll play games. But I'm not abandoning you and Emma. Grace felt tears start to fall. You don't understand. This could get ugly. Really ugly. And you have a business to think about, a reputation. My reputation can handle dating a wonderful woman who's protecting her daughter. But what if it affects your work? What if... Grace. Marcus's voice was gentle now. I've made my choice. I'm choosing you and Emma, both of you. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Grace wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm scared, she whispered. I know, but you're not alone anymore. Do you hear me? You're not alone. For the first time in days, Grace let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, that could be true. But Monday morning would bring Ben's promised paperwork, and everything was about to get much more complicated. Monday morning arrived with a process server at Grace's door. The papers were official and terrifying. Ben was petitioning for joint custody of Emma, claiming that Grace had deliberately kept him from establishing a relationship with his daughter. Grace read through the legal language with shaking hands. Ben was painting himself as a reformed father who'd been denied access to his child. He made Grace sound controlling and unstable. Mommy, who was that man? Emma asked, peering around the corner in her pajamas. Just someone delivering mail, baby. Go get dressed for school. Grace waited until Emma was in her room, then called in sick to work. She couldn't face scanning groceries when her world was falling apart. She'd just hung up when her phone rang. Marcus. Grace, I just got served with papers too. Ben is claiming I'm an unfit influence on Emma and demanding that I have no contact with either of you during the custody proceedings. Grace felt sick. Marcus, I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Don't apologize. This isn't your fault. Marcus's voice was steady and calm. I've already called my lawyer friend, Sarah Chen. She wants to meet with you today. I can't afford... She's doing this as a favor to me. No charge for the consultation. Grace wanted to refuse, to maintain her independence, but Emma's scared face flashed through her mind. Okay, she whispered. I'll pick you up after you drop Emma at school. The law office was in a tall building downtown, the kind of place Grace usually walked past without going inside. Sarah Chen was younger than Grace had expected, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. I've reviewed Ben's petition, Sarah said, spreading papers across her desk. He's making some serious claims, but his case has significant weaknesses. Like what? Grace asked. He's been absent from Emma's life for months at a time with no contact. He has no stable employment history until recently. And most importantly, he's never established any kind of regular visitation or support payments. Sarah looked up from the papers, Tell me about your relationship with Emma. Daily routine, school involvement, medical care, everything. For the next hour, Grace described her life with Emma in detail. Sarah took careful notes, asking follow-up questions about Emma's school performance, her friendships, her emotional stability. What about you, Marcus? Sarah asked. Ben is claiming you're a negative influence. Tell me about your relationship with Emma. Marcus described their friendship honestly, helping with homework, Saturday morning park visits, bedtime story reading. He talked about Emma's trust in him and how carefully he'd approached the relationship. How long have you two been dating? Sarah asked. About 6 weeks, Grace said, feeling embarrassed by how short it sounded. But you've been taking things slowly, integrating Marcus into Emma's life gradually? Yes. Emma's well-being has always been my first priority. Sarah nodded approvingly. That's exactly what any judge would want to hear. Grace, I'm going to be honest with you. Ben's petition is mostly hot air. He's trying to scare you into giving him what he wants without a fight. So what do? Grace asked. We respond with facts. Emma's school records, medical records, character references from teachers and neighbors. We show the court that Emma is thriving in your care and that any major disruption to her routine would be harmful. Grace felt a tiny spark of hope. And if he doesn't back down, then we fight. But Grace, most of these cases settle before they reach court. Ben probably thinks he can intimidate you into compliance. After they left the lawyer's office, Marcus drove Grace to pick up Emma from school. How are you feeling? He asked as they sat in the pickup line. Scared, but a little better, I guess. Sarah seems to know what she's doing. She's one of the best family lawyers in the city. If anyone can help you, it's her. Emma bounded out of the school building, her backpack bouncing as she ran toward their car. Grace watched her daughter's easy smile and felt fierce protectiveness surge through her chest. Mommy, Marcus! Emma climbed into the back seat. Ms. Patel reminded everyone about the play tomorrow night. You're both coming, right? Grace and Marcus exchanged glances. With everything happening with Ben, Grace had almost forgotten about the school play. Of course we're coming, Marcus said. I wouldn't miss it. Emma beamed. I can't wait for you to see me be a butterfly. That evening, after Emma was in bed, Grace and Marcus sat on her couch talking quietly about the legal situation. Grace felt drained but grateful that Marcus was there. I keep thinking I should have seen this coming, Grace said. Ben's never been consistent about anything in his life. I should have known he'd try something like this eventually. You can't predict other people's choices, Marcus said. You've spent 6 years putting Emma first. Any court will see that. Grace leaned against Marcus's shoulder, allowing herself this moment of comfort. What if they don't? What if Ben wins? He won't. But even if the worst happens, we'll figure it out. Emma knows who her real family is. The word family sent a warm jolt through Grace's chest. Family. When had she started thinking of Marcus's family? Marcus, she said quietly, why are you doing this? Fighting for us, I mean. It would be so much easier to walk away. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Do you remember what you asked me that day at the park? Why I was interested in you? Grace nodded. I told you that being with you and Emma made me remember who I wanted to be. But it's more than that. Marcus turned to face her. For the first time in my life, I'm not thinking about what I can buy or build or achieve. I'm thinking about Saturday morning pancakes and helping with homework and being the person Emma runs to when she's excited about something. Grace felt tears prick her eyes. I love you, Grace, Marcus said simply. I love Emma. I love the life we're building together, and I'm not letting anyone take that away from us. Grace kissed him then, soft and fierce at the same time. I love you too, she whispered against his lips. It was the first time either of them had said the words out loud. The next evening was Emma's school play. Grace had barely slept the night before, her mind churning with legal worries and Ben's threats. But watching Emma transform into a butterfly on the elementary school stage, Grace felt her anxiety fade into wonder. Emma was radiant in her yellow and orange costume, her lines delivered with perfect clarity. When she spotted Grace and Marcus in the audience, her face lit up even brighter. She's amazing, Marcus whispered, squeezing Grace's hand. During intermission, other parents came over to introduce themselves to Marcus. Grace watched nervously, wondering what they thought about her dating someone so obviously successful. But Marcus was warm and genuine with everyone, asking about their children and complimenting the production. "Your daughter is delightful," said Mrs. Patterson, whose son was in Emma's class. "And it's so nice to see Emma with a father figure. She talks about Marcus all the time." Grace's chest tightened. Emma had been talking about Marcus to her friends and teachers. Her daughter was already thinking of him as a permanent part of their family. After the play, they waited in the buzzing hallway for Emma to change out of her costume. Grace was chatting with another parent when she saw him. Ben, standing near the exit doors, watching them. Grace's blood went cold. Marcus followed her gaze and stepped slightly closer to her. "Is that him?" Marcus asked quietly. Grace nodded, her throat tight. Ben started walking toward them, and Grace's protective instincts flared. She didn't want him anywhere near Emma, especially not tonight when her daughter was so happy and excited. "Grace," Ben said when he reached them, "Emma did great up there." "What are you doing here, Ben?" "I'm her father. I have a right to see her school performances." Marcus stepped forward slightly. "You must be Ben. I'm Marcus." Ben looked Marcus up and down, taking in the expensive clothes and confident posture. "Yeah, I've heard about you. Thanks for the conversation the other day." "Happy to clear up any confusion," Marcus said evenly. Emma appeared then, still glowing from her performance, and ran straight to Grace and Marcus. "Did you see me? Did you see my butterfly dance?" "You were perfect, Butterfly," Marcus said, kneeling down to her level. Emma noticed Ben then, and her excitement dimmed slightly. "Hi, Daddy." "Hey, baby girl, you were amazing up there." Emma smiled politely but stayed close to Marcus. Grace could see the confusion in her daughter's eyes, happiness about her performance mixed with uncertainty about why her father was suddenly there. "Emma," Ben said, "I was thinking maybe we could get ice cream and talk about your play." Emma looked at Grace questioningly. "Right now?" "It's a school night," Grace said firmly. "Emma needs to get home." Ben's jaw tightened. 5 minutes, Grace. I just want to congratulate my daughter." Grace felt trapped. Other parents were milling around, and she didn't want to cause a scene, but she also didn't trust Ben's motives. 5 minutes, she said, "but I'm staying right here." Ben knelt down to Emma's level, much like Marcus had done. But where Marcus's attention felt warm and genuine, Ben's felt performative. "You're getting so big, Em, and so talented. I'm really proud of you." Emma smiled uncertainly. "Thank you. I was hoping we could spend some time together soon. Maybe this weekend? I could take you to that new arcade downtown." Emma's eyes widened with interest, but she looked at Grace before answering. "Can Mommy come too?" "I was thinking just the two of us. Father-daughter time." Emma's excitement faded. "I don't know." Grace felt her heart break for her daughter. Emma wanted to believe in her father, but she was old enough now to sense the underlying tension. "We'll talk about it later," Grace said firmly. "Right now, we need to get you home." Ben stood up, his friendly mask slipping slightly. "I'll call you tomorrow, Grace. We need to discuss arrangements." After he left, Emma was quieter than usual on the drive home. Marcus had offered to drive them, and Grace was grateful for his steady presence. "Mommy," Emma said from the back seat, "why does Daddy only want to see me?" "Sometimes?" Grace met Marcus's eyes in the rearview mirror. They'd talked about how to handle questions like this, but it was still difficult. "Sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings," Grace said carefully. "Your daddy loves you, but he's still learning how to be a good father." "Marcus is good at being like a daddy," Emma said matter-of-factly. Grace's throat tightened. In the rearview mirror, she saw Marcus blink rapidly. "Marcus cares about you very much," Grace said. "I know. He shows up." The simple statement hit Grace like a punch to the chest. Emma, at 6 years old, had already learned the most important lesson about relationships. Words meant nothing without actions. 2 weeks later, Grace was stocking shelves at work when her phone rang. Sarah Chen. "Grace, I have news. Ben's lawyer called this morning. He's withdrawing the custody petition." Grace nearly dropped the box of cereal she was holding. "What? Why?" "Apparently, Ben's new employer ran a background check and discovered the custody filing. They weren't thrilled about the potential drama, and they made it clear that his job security depended on keeping his personal life stable and quiet." Grace sank onto a nearby milk crate, legs suddenly weak. "So it's over?" "It's over. Ben agreed to maintain the current informal arrangement. He can see Emma when he's in town, with reasonable notice and your approval. No overnight visits, no disruption to her routine." And Marcus? The restraining request? Also dropped. Ben's lawyer advised him that he had no legal standing to control your personal relationships. Grace felt tears of relief start to fall. Thank you, Sarah, for everything. Thank Marcus. He's the one who insisted I take the case. After Grace hung up, she immediately called Marcus. It's over, she said as soon as he answered. Ben withdrew everything. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Are you okay? Grace laughed through her tears. I'm free. We're free. I'm coming to get you. Right now. I'm at work. I don't care. This calls for a celebration. An hour later, Grace found herself in Marcus's car, driving toward Emma's school. Where are we going? She asked. To get Emma, and then we're going somewhere special. Marcus drove them to a small park on the outskirts of town, one Grace had never seen before. It was quieter than their usual park, with a small pond and walking trails winding through trees. Emma ran ahead to feed the ducks while Grace and Marcus sat on a bench overlooking the water. How are you feeling? Marcus asked. Like I can breathe again, Grace said. I've been so scared for so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like to just exist without looking over my shoulder. Marcus took her hand. It's going to take time to really believe it's over. I know. But Marcus, Grace turned to face him. Through all of this, you never wavered. You never made me feel like I was too much trouble or that my problems were too complicated. Because you're not too much trouble, and Emma is worth fighting for. Grace felt tears start again, but these were happy tears. I love you so much. I love you too. Both of you. Emma ran back to them, breathless and grinning. The ducks are so funny. One of them kept trying to eat another one's food. Just like you and your French fries, Marcus said, making Emma giggle. As they walked around the pond, Emma between them, Grace felt something settle in her chest that she hadn't felt in years. Security. Not the kind that came from money or status, but the kind that came from knowing that someone would show up day after day, whether life was easy or complicated. Can we come back here next weekend? Emma asked. Absolutely, Marcus said. Can we bring a picnic? Whatever you want, Butterfly. Grace watched Marcus and Emma plan their future picnic and realized that somewhere along the way, without her quite noticing, they'd become a family. 3 months later, Grace opened her apartment door to find Marcus standing in the hallway with a small wrapped box. What's this? She asked, letting him in. Early Christmas present, Marcus said, for both of you. Emma bounced over from where she'd been coloring at the kitchen table. Is it really for me too? Open it and see. Emma carefully unwrapped the box, revealing 2 sets of keys on matching keychains, one shaped like a butterfly, one shaped like a heart. What are they for? Emma asked. Marcus looked at Grace nervously. I bought a house, a small one, with a big backyard and good schools nearby. I was hoping you and your mom might want to move in with me. Grace felt her heart skip. Marcus, I know it's a big step, he said quickly, and I know you like your independence, but the house has a separate apartment downstairs if you want your own space, and Emma would have her own room, with windows facing the garden. Emma's eyes were wide with excitement. My own room? A real one? A real one, with built-in bookshelves and a window seat for reading. Emma looked at Grace hopefully. Can we, Mommy? Please? Grace looked around her small apartment, the place where she'd built a life for herself and Emma, where she'd learned to be strong and independent. It was hard to imagine leaving, but then she looked at Marcus, at his nervous hope and gentle patience, and she realized that independence didn't have to mean being alone. Can I see the house first? She asked. Marcus's face lit up. Right now? The house was perfect in a way that made Grace's chest ache. It was small but spacious, with hardwood floors and large windows that let in lots of light. Emma's room was everything Marcus had promised, with built-in shelves and a cozy reading nook. The downstairs apartment has its own entrance, Marcus said as they toured the lower level. So you could come and go as you please, but I was hoping... He trailed off, suddenly shy. Hoping what? Hoping you'd want to share the upstairs with me, as a family. Grace found Emma in the backyard, running in circles through the fallen leaves. What do you think, baby? Grace called. I think it's magical, Emma shouted back. That evening, they had dinner at Marcus's current apartment, a sleek, modern place that Grace had visited a few times, but never felt completely comfortable in. So, Marcus said as they cleaned up, what's the verdict? Grace looked around his expensive apartment, then thought about the warm, welcoming house they'd seen earlier. I think, she said slowly, that Emma's right. It's magical. Marcus's smile was brilliant. Really? Really, but Marcus, I want to contribute. Rent, utilities, groceries. I'm not going to be a kept woman. We'll figure out something fair, Marcus said. But Grace, you're not moving in as my tenant. You're moving in as my partner. The word partner made Grace's heart flutter. When would we move? She asked. Whenever you're ready. The house is empty now. We could start moving stuff this weekend if you want. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face hopeful. Are we really going to live in the house with the big yard? If that's what you want, Grace said. Emma threw her arms around Grace's waist. It's what I want most in the whole world. Over Emma's head, Grace met Marcus's eyes. He looked happier than she'd ever seen him. I guess we're moving, Grace said. 6 months later, Grace stood in the kitchen of their house making pancakes for Sunday brunch. Through the window, she could see Marcus and Emma working in the garden they'd planted together. Emma was covered in dirt and absolutely delighted with herself. The house had become home faster than Grace had thought possible. Emma's room was filled with books and art supplies. Grace had enrolled in 2 community college classes, working toward her teaching degree 1 credit at a time. Marcus had scaled back his work travel to be home more often. They'd found their rhythm. Saturday morning farmers markets, Sunday garden work, family movie nights on the couch. Grace had kept her job at the grocery store, though she'd cut back to part-time. She liked the work, and she liked maintaining her own independence. Ben had visited twice since they'd moved, both times keeping his promise to give advance notice. The visits were easier now that Grace felt secure in her life with Marcus and Emma. Ben seemed smaller somehow, less threatening. Emma was polite, but not particularly interested in spending extra time with him. I have Marcus now, Emma had explained to Grace after Ben's last visit. He doesn't leave. Grace's phone buzzed with a text from Rosa. Saw the pics from Emma's birthday party. You all look so happy. When are you making it official? Grace smiled as she flipped a pancake. She and Marcus hadn't talked about marriage yet, but they didn't need to rush. They were already a family in all the ways that mattered. Mommy, Emma burst through the back door, trailing dirt and excitement. The tomatoes are getting red. Marcus says we can make sauce. That's wonderful, baby. Go wash your hands. Marcus followed Emma inside, his hair messy from working in the sun. He kissed Grace's cheek as he passed, a casual gesture that still made her heart flutter. Smells good in here, he said. Everything smells good when you're happy, Grace replied. Marcus wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, and Grace leaned back against his chest. Any regrets? He asked softly. Grace looked around their bright kitchen, listened to Emma chattering happily in the bathroom, felt Marcus's steady heartbeat against her back. Only that it took us so long to find each other, she said. Emma bounded back into the kitchen, clean hands and bright eyes. Can I set the table? I want to use the fancy plates. Of course, Grace said, as Emma carefully arranged their Sunday dishes. Nothing fancy by most standards, but special to them. Grace realized that she'd finally found what she'd been looking for all along. Not a fairy tale ending, but something better. A real life, built with a man who showed up every day in a house filled with laughter and love and the promise of tomorrow. Marcus squeezed her gently. I love our Sundays, he said. I love our everything, Grace replied. And as Emma called them to the table she'd set with such care, Grace knew that this was exactly where she belonged, not because someone had rescued her, but because she'd been brave enough to let herself be loved. Outside, the tomatoes grew redder in the sun, and inside, their family grew stronger with each passing day. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that made it everything.